Once upon a time, in a quiet village called Kuru, everyone lived happily. The village was surrounded by tall, lush trees, and the people there followed special rules. One very important rule was that all the girls had to remain pure, that is, virgins until they married. This rule was sacred to the people of Kuru, and they made sure all the girls followed it carefully. The parents were very proud of this tradition. They believed their daughters were pure and cherished that belief deeply. Often, they boasted among themselves, saying things like, "My daughter is pure, just like all the girls in our village." It was a point of pride and honor, a sign of good upbringing and respect for their customs. However, one day something unexpected happened. A terrible misfortune befell the village, and to lift the curse, it was revealed that only a true virgin could be the solution. There was also a promise that the virgin maiden who helped with the sacrifice would marry the prince, and her parents would receive many gifts and money. Excited by the prospect of their daughters becoming royal in-laws, every parent eagerly brought their daughters to the palace. They were sure that their girls were virgins and were eager to win the prize and restore peace to the village. As the crowd gathered, a Baj stepped forward with a large pot in his hands. He addressed everyone, saying, "In this pot is a special necklace, blessed by the gods. Only a true virgin maiden can pull it out. This is a test the gods have given us to find the ones who will carry the sacrifice." The girls lined up nervously while their parents watched with confidence. One by one, they dipped their hands into the pot, but each time they pulled out nothing. The air grew tense as the first girl tried, then the second, and so on. Each girl came up empty-handed, and the murmurs among the crowd grew louder. Then it was the turn of the chief's daughters, known for their grace and beauty. The first daughter stepped forward confidently, but she, too, could not find the necklace. The second daughter tried and failed as well. Finally, the youngest daughter reached in, trembling, but she also came up empty. The villagers were stunned. Whispers filled the air. How can this be? Not even the chief's daughters. The elders exchanged worried glances, puzzled and concerned. They had always believed that the girls in the village were pure, upholding the traditions they cherished. But now it seemed something had gone terribly wrong. News of the failed test spread quickly, causing disbelief and shock. The girls started shouting, "It's not our fault. It's Auntie Isheim." As rumors flew, attention turned to Isheim, the stranger from city. Villagers began to murmur, blaming her for the chaos and misfortune that had befallen their once peaceful home. "She came here and changed everything," an elder muttered. "Our girls used to follow the traditions. Now look at what has happened." Another villager agreed, saying, "Isheim brought city ways to our village. She made the girls forget who they are." And so the story begins. Long, long ago, a girl named Isheim came to visit her aunt in the village of Kuru. Isheim was from the big city, and she was very beautiful. She always wore bright, revealing clothes that caught everyone's eye. Isheim walked to the village with confidence, as if she were a queen, and everyone noticed her, especially the men. As she passed by, the men whispered, "Wow, look at her. She's so beautiful." The village girls watched her too. They admired how she dressed and walked, wishing they could be like her. "I want to wear clothes like Isheim," one girl said. Another added, "She looks so confident and pretty." Though the girls didn't know much about her, they were fascinated. Her bright clothes and confident walk were unlike anything they had seen before, and they began to wonder what it would be like to receive all the attention Isheim got. "Isheim is so cool," said one girl. "I want to be just like her." But little did they know, Isheim had a secret that would change everything in the village. The men who admired her beauty were giving her gifts and money, not merely because she was pretty, but because she was meeting them in secret. In exchange for their gifts, she spent time with them in ways the village would not approve of one day. Asabi, the chief's daughter, became curious about why Isheim always seemed to have new things and money. Deciding to follow her quietly, Asabi saw Isheim meeting with a man in a hidden spot. Then Isheim walked away with a small bag of money. Surprised, Asabi thought, so this is Isheim's secret. The men give her gifts for being with them. She wondered if she could get gifts too. Asabi had always been a good girl, following the village's rules, but now she was curious. She wanted to feel special like Isheim. The next day, Asabi noticed a young merchant looking at her. Recalling what she had seen, she decided to try it out. She talked to the merchant and agreed to meet him in secret. The merchant gave her gifts and money just as he did with Aisime. Excited and feeling special, Asabi thought, "This is so easy. I can get nice things too." She felt as though she had discovered something amazing and couldn't wait to tell her friends. Little did she know that this secret was going to cause big changes in the village. Asabi couldn't keep her discovery to herself. She told her friends about Aisime's secret and explained how easy it was to get gifts and money from men. To spend time with them, and they will give you nice things. Initially shocked, her friends soon became curious as well. Before long, more girls in the village began to follow Aisime's example. They started wearing makeup and dressing in ways that would catch men's attention. The girls wanted to feel special and get gifts like Aisime and Asabi did. They whispered, "If Aisime and Asabi can do it, why can't we?" Aisime noticed a change among the village girls and saw an opportunity. She began organizing meetings between the girls and the men, taking a share of the gift and money the girls received. "I'll set everything up," she told them. "All you have to do is be nice to the men." The girls trusted her and followed her instructions. They loved the attention and gifts from the men and enjoyed the new things they could buy. Gradually, they began to forget the village's important traditions of staying pure and respecting themselves. The excitement of receiving gifts made them overlook the values they had grown up with. As more and more girls joined in, it became like a secret club. They kept everything hidden from their parents and the village elders. The girls thought they were just having fun, but they didn't realize the trouble they were getting into. The secret spread, and the village changed in ways no one expected. Over time, more girls attended Aisime's secret meetings with the men. What began as a few girls seeking gifts turned into a common practice. The meetings were no longer just about gifts, but about the attention and excitement they brought. The girls felt admired and special, feelings that soon outweighed the importance of the gifts. Meanwhile, the village elders and parents had no idea what was happening. They continued their daily lives, believing that the village's traditions were still being upheld. The elders often spoke about the importance of purity and respect, thinking the girls were listening. They had no inkling that the tradition of keeping the girls pure until marriage was being broken. The girls maintained a double life, normal around their families at village gatherings and daily chores, but secretly living in a way that defied everything the village stood for. The taboo of meeting with men in secret had become normal among the girls, and they no longer felt shame or guilt. Instead, they saw it as a new way of life that gave them freedom and attention. They had drifted far from the values they were taught, and the once strong traditions were quietly crumbling, unnoticed by the elders and parents. Then one day, something terrible happened in Kuru. Plants began to wither. Their leaves turned brown and dry. Animals, usually full of life, started falling sick and dying. Worst of all, the villagers themselves began to suffer. Many fell ill with strange symptoms no one had seen before. It was a dark and frightening time. The villagers were scared and confused. They couldn't understand what was causing this sudden misfortune. They had always followed their traditions and respected the gods. Or so they thought. Desperate for answers, they decided to visit the oracle, a god, known for his wisdom and connection to the spiritual world. The villagers gathered at Abu's home, their faces filled with worry. The elder spoke first, explaining the situation and asking Abaji what they could do to stop the curse. Agaj listened carefully, his eyes closed as if in deep thought. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "The gods are angry," Abaji added in a solemn voice. "They are displeased with the village, for the traditions have been broken. The purity that was once held dear has been lost. To appease the gods, a great sacrifice must be made. 2 virgin maidens must carry the sacrifice to the sacred altar." The villagers gasped. The idea of a sacrifice was serious, and the mention of virgin maidens was even more so. The village elders, who had always believed that all the young girls were pure, looked worried. They had trusted that their traditions were upheld, but now they were not so sure. Agaj continued, "The sacrifice must be made within 2 days. If not, the curse will grow stronger and bring more suffering." The villagers left Abba's home with heavy hearts, knowing they had to act quickly to find 2 virgin maidens for the sacrifice. The village had always prided itself on the purity of its girls, but now, with the strange behavior of recent months, doubts crept into their minds. Their one strong belief was shaken, and the weight of the curse loomed over them. That was how, the next morning, the town crier walked through the village, ringing his bell and shouting, "All young maidens, come to the palace. All young maidens, come to the palace." His voice echoed through the streets, and soon every family heard the call. The villagers knew this was about the important sacrifice that Agbaji had spoken of. The following day, all the girls and their parents came to the palace, and when a virgin pot test was performed by Agbaji, they discovered that no girl in the village was a virgin anymore. Isaim had turned them all into prostitutes. Back in the present, Ab's voice broke the long silence of the story. "The gods see everything," he said gravely. "The anger is clear. We must continue the search, for without the sacrifice, the curse will not be lifted." The villagers realized the seriousness of the situation. The purity they had taken for granted was gone, and the girls who were supposed to represent the village's pride and tradition had failed the test. Now they faced the grim reality that finding the right maidens might be harder than they thought. The weight of the curse felt heavier than ever, and the village was filled with dread and urgency. The blame quickly shifted to Isaim, who had become the symbol of everything that had gone wrong. The villagers believed her influence had led the girls astray, causing them to abandon their traditions and bring the wrath of the gods upon them. The elders shook their heads in disappointment, and anger. Ea's parents, who lived in the city, soon heard about the trouble their daughter had caused. They were shocked and ashamed. Her father, a stern man who believed in discipline, was furious. "We should have raised her better," he said regretfully. "We were too lenient, and now she's brought shame upon us." Isaim's mother, who had often defended her daughter's actions, felt deep sadness. "I should have been stricter," she admitted. "I let her do as she pleased because she was our only child. Now look at the mess she's made." As the villagers continued to talk, Isaim felt the full weight of their blame. She realized the impact of her actions and the trouble she had caused. The once admired girl from the city was now seen as the root of all the problems in Kuru. The villagers demanded she take responsibility, believing she had led their daughters to break sacred traditions. The village was in turmoil, and the blame on Isaim grew heavier with each passing day. Her influence had turned the girls away from their values, and now the village faced consequences. The elders decided that something had to be done to restore order and make amends with the gods. The fate of the village rested on what would happen next, and all eyes were on Isaim to see how she would face the consequences of her actions. The elders and villagers gathered to decide what must be done. With no virgin maidens found and the curse still upon the village, they turned to Isaim, the one they believed had brought this misfortune. The decision was made. Isaim would carry the sacrifice alone as penance of the chaos she had caused. Isaim stood before the village, feeling a mix of fear and regret. She looked at the faces of the villagers, all angry and disappointed. Her parents, who had rushed from the city, stood helplessly by. They could not protect her from the consequences of her actions. The oracle Agbaji handed her the calabash filled with offerings for the gods. "You must take this to the sacred altar in the forest," he said. "You will walk alone. This is your burden to bear." With the heavy calabash on her head, Isaim began her journey. She walked through the village, past the disapproving stares and whispers of the people. As she entered the dense forest, she felt truly alone. The trees closed in around her, and the path became increasingly challenging. For 2 days, she walked without rest. Her feet ached and her spirit grew heavy. As she walked, Isaim thought about everything that had happened. She remembered the excitement and attention she had received from men, the way the village girls had admired her and wanted to be like her. Now, she realized how shallow and fleeting that attention had been. It had led them all astray from the values and traditions that had kept the village safe and happy. Tears streamed down her face as she trudged on. She felt deep regret for the harm she had caused, not just to herself, but to the entire village. She understood that her actions had consequences, and those consequences had brought suffering to everyone. Finally, exhausted and weary, Isaim reached the sacred altar deep in the forest. She placed the calabash on the altar and knelt before it, crying out to the gods for forgiveness. She prayed for the curse to be lifted and for the village to find peace once again. In that moment, Aysime felt the full weight of her actions and the pain they had caused as she stood to leave. A sense of quiet acceptance settled over her. She knew she had to face whatever came next with courage, even if it meant being separated from her family and the life she once knew. Aysime's journey was not just a physical one. It was a journey of realization and repentance, and she hoped that, somehow, the village could heal from the wounds her actions had caused. After completing her journey, Aysime returned to the village. As she walked back into Kuru, she noticed a change in the air. The villagers gathered, watching her with a mixture of relief and lingering anger. The plants that had withered began to show signs of life again, and the sick animals started to recover. The curse had been lifted, but the consequences for Aysime were far from over. The elders stood before the village, and the gods announced, "The gods have accepted the sacrifice. The curse is lifted, but Aysime must face the consequences of her actions. She is not permitted to leave the village for 12 years. During this time, she will be responsible for carrying all sacrifices to the gods." The villagers murmured in agreement. They were relieved that the curse had ended, but still held resentment toward Aysime. As part of her punishment, Aysime was given a small hut near the shrine, isolated from the rest of the village. The villagers avoided her, and she was treated as an outcast. Aysime spent her days fulfilling her duties, carrying sacrifices and maintaining the shrine. She lived in solitude, reflecting on the choices she had made and the lives she had affected. The once bright and lively girl from the city was now a shadow of her former self, burdened by the weight of her past actions. Meanwhile, the village worked to restore its traditions. They reinforced the importance of purity and respect for their cultural values, determined to protect their way of life. The elders even decided that no one from the city would be allowed into Kuru, so that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. Aysime's story became a cautionary tale for the children of Kuru. Parents would tell them about the girl who came from the city and brought trouble to their village. They spoke of how important it was to respect traditions and make good choices. Aysime's life served as a reminder of the consequences of straying from the path of respect and honor. For 12 long years, Aysime remained in the village, isolated and alone. She lived with the regret of her actions and the knowledge that she had brought shame upon herself and her family. Her punishment was not only physical, but also a deep emotional and spiritual journey. She learned that true beauty and worth comes from within, and that respecting one's culture and traditions is vital. As the years passed, the village slowly healed, but the memory of what had happened remained. Aysime's story was passed down through generations, a lesson in humility, respect, and the importance of making wise choices. It was a sad ending for Aysime, but it was also a lesson learned for the village of Kuru, reminding them of the strength and value of their cultural heritage. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment on what you learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more enchanting tales just like this one. Thank you,